And I want to share with you some of the things that we found. So let me give you a little bit of the context. So after World War I, 1918, so Romania have the unification, which is Transylvania province. It's about to have a lot of rebuilding and so on. So in 1923, the municipality said that they will establish what they call Uzina de Comunale Bucharest, which basically means Bucharest Waterworks and so on. So in 1925, they give a report. And I have this report, some of them I had it, for example, I found the website that deals with this kind of stuff. Otherwise, I have to hunt any antique bookstore in order to obtain it. So, but the basic idea was that a year before that, there was a severe drought. And the general idea was that Bucharest would not have enough water because it's growing very fast. And I found it that in the report, this idea is criticized, and the authors and the management of the said water utility said, no, the problem are the leakages, and not. It will not be very good to invest in new pumping station, treatment station, water sources. Let's find out leakages and repair it. Which is very interesting, since I didn't heard this idea ever working in Romania, but apparently it was 100 years ago. So they try to mainly they work on, let's say, connection, because and for example, this is the picture that they put at the end of the report in order to emphasize the problem. Apparently, at that point, a lot of pipes and connection were dealing with iron. I have to check this. It was iron or something, and lead pipes. So they concentrated on that, and their attempt, they didn't put necessary figures, but to try to explain it in a very, let's say, understandable matter. And they said, and this is taken from the report. So in 1923, we needed 3 pumps of 2,000 cubic meters and 3 pumps of 1,000 cubic meters per hour in order to ensure a 30-meter pressure. After this, in 2 years later, we only needed 2 pumps of 2,000 cubic meters per hour and 1 pump of 1,000 for 35-meter pressure. So they were right in their approach. Of course, the document is very technical. It's 100+ pages. So at some point, I was thinking that I could do a presentation, just put it in a more modern Excel file, with everything from 1923 or 25, and see if anyone can spot the difference before that. Okay, moving on. Because each year, from each report, they added something to the leak management. Of course, it's not only that what they did, but this was an important part. For example, in 1927, okay, they continue works on water reduction, that means repairing leaks and also the extension of the network. And at some point, they are talking about performance indicator. Now, there is no reference explicit to performance indicator in these reports, okay. However, at some point, they say, we abandoned the idea. They were talking about expressing all the water losses per kilometer per length, but they abandoned the idea because, and this is also taken from the report, because they said, okay, we have different pipes, different dates, different material, and that could give the wrong information. Now, interestingly enough, they opted for, okay, we can put everything, water losses per capita. However, they didn't did a figure because they expected the result from the census. The census wasn't in that period, but anyhow. But now they try a little bit more. So, for example, this is a district. It's called a district, and actually it's a DMA. And they have several DMAs, and they have this knowledge back then. For example, they analyzed the night flow, and this is the flow pattern. I have no idea what was the equipment. that they use. I have some knowledge about it, but I don't know. And they try to see if after they repair something, okay, what will be the results? And they were looking at the 19. This is an early attempt of the water balance. They did a monthly water balance. Okay, so here they have a flow. I left it in Romania. I tried to left the original, but I only translated some of them. Okay, it's a monthly water balance, and they put consumption, they put losses, everything. What is interesting is that when they talk about losses, the real losses, they say losses estimated to be in valves and hydrants, losses estimated to be at connection, losses estimated to be in the distribution network. So there was this knowledge of putting the losses based on their time. Again, 1937, 1929. Don't worry, I will not take every year, okay? So you will see, I will skip at some point. Don't worry about it. Okay, I know, no problem. Okay, 1939, that just emphasis again on the fact that we had problems with leakages and so on. Okay, but they have a step forward. They start looking on the leakages on the client side. Okay, so then they have a report for each client, and this is an example taken from 1929 report, and they say, we have this consumption, then we go there, we found the leakage, we have a broken pipe, we repair it, and then we have the real consumption. Okay, I skip to 1940, because between those times, I only have a very few reports, very hard to come by. However, in 1940, there was something much more interesting, and then that will be the last report, I promise you. So there are no more. But it gets simplified. It's not 100 pages, it's like 50 pages, and it's focused on analysis of the last year. Again, it doesn't explicitly say about performance indicators and so on, but tends to simplify, because the first report were done for the municipality. They were very technical in nature. Later on the report, the audience shifted. Okay, so less technical. There is someone from Bucharest Water Network here? No. Latest report from 2009 from the Bucharest are PR focused. Basically, you have very little information. It's for the general public to see something very nice that tells you very little. Okay, I didn't put that in the presentation. Okay, what they analyzed? They said, well, they are not just losses, they are virtual losses, and this actually is the term that used in the report, and effective losses. What I managed to say is that by virtual losses, actually they meant not necessarily water losses, but sorry, this is a mistake, not water, but non-revenue water. Okay, and by effective losses, they meant real losses. And what they analyze here, they analyze the fact that the trend of both virtual losses, what they call effective losses, based on the number of district meters put in the network. Okay, so we have like 165 meters and another 17 meters on the main trunks. So they said this is a good example because that this activity led us to have lower losses. Okay. Now this is the first attempt of the water balance that they had. So basically what they said, I just translated some keywords. Okay. They have something that they call avoidable losses and unavoidable losses. Now, it's not to be confused with the, let's say, the terminology used by IWA today. but they have a clear idea that some of them could be improved and some not. For example, they said that effective losses here, these are current losses, these are actually the real losses, okay? Then the unavoidable losses is something that one might call it technological consumption, and so on. This is what they meant by unavoidable. Avoidable losses, this is actually the consumption that was used for green spaces, for irrigation, for some utility, and so on. Okay? So from now on, I don't know if this appeared in 1940. I know that in 1934 it wasn't there. Okay. So, and now we have no data for the period. Until 2000, no data, no reliable data. What we try to do? Me and another colleague of mine, actually she's my beautiful wife, we tried to, a few years ago, we made something based on satellite imagery. I mean, she did it, not me, okay? Based to see how the region around Bucharest developed. And of course, we find out that this is the area of Bucharest, and outside the Bucharest, there start construction, building, and so on. And we found out that everything was quite exponential. And we said, look, we are going to use this to estimate, backward estimate, what was the water consumption, because we are going to take the data from 2014, and we have a lot of information there, and surely we have a correlation, and then we can use it backwards to have an idea, because there were no data. Well, we have a correlation with the physical network. Okay, we have data from the, by the way, I have to have a disclaimer. The water utility Apanova, Veolia, and Bucharest wasn't involved in this particular presentation. However, I will use only information that was produced and publicly put available in some form or another by Veolia. That was the whole point, not to go to company to ask for information, just to take some information. Okay, so we find out that, okay, there is a trend in the network became bigger. That is fine. It's correlated with the fact that there are a lot of building, the area, Bucharest, and so on. It's bigger, it has a lot of connection, many lanes, it's fine. However, this is the supply consumption. And I saw this yesterday when someone from Czech Republic said this, and they say, look, and in a gray you have the bill consumption. Now this is the total consumption, both domestic, non-domestic, and so on. And it's going downwards, not going up. The network is going up, network is going here bigger, the consumption is going down. Forget about any correlation whatsoever. Is that? Well, there are several, I think there are several, I have some several explanations. Okay, then we put meter, industry was gone, people started to migrate from Bucharest to the rest of the area, didn't waste so much water, and so on. Two questions about this, and I want to say it right now. Now, the water utility in Bucharest have a concession contract, and the main indicator is the network efficiency. What is that? Is the reverse of NRW. It's revenue water per system input. Okay, this is in the contract, they don't have to change it. And you know, I have a lot of respect for these people, really, for what they've done, for what they achieved. However, I'm going to say two things that I said them to them in friendly debates all over, because it's not nice to talk about them when they are not here. First one is, if the consumption was, for example, at this level, 2000, then the water losses, the non-revenue that the company would require to have will be also higher. And everybody was to be happy because they said, okay, they did a good job, that was what they had to do. However, the consumption decreased. So the company was quickly forced to adapt. They adapt their strategy like 3 times. And what we see is that they can do better if they are going also for this inverse NRW. The second thing is that using this so-called indicator doesn't show the amount of work what we've done. My problem is, look, for like 2,200 something million cubic meter, okay, you reduce the non-revenue water to this level 5 times. You cannot see that in percentage. In percentage, they go from 50% to 75%. This is nothing. The true achievement is that they managed to do that 5 times less. Why they are not using, I don't know. I try to, and some, by the way, another disclaimer, this is something that I calculated. It's not an official figure. And for ILI, I'm not even going to tell you about, because it's a complicated discussion and could have problems with some contractual clause. All can I say is that it's definitely, ILI is definitely higher than 8, most likely higher than 60. This is all I can say. Okay? So, anyhow, at some point we wanted to do this for water loss in liter per kilometer per network and day, and at some point also we had the idea, let's put also the bill consumption, because we wanted to see if we can have a correlation or not along with other indicators. Now the goal of this, and this is all I want to say in the final remarks, roughly 100 years ago in Bucharest, Romania, there was advanced knowledge about water loss management. All I know that at the end of '89, there was no more. It's like the lost Atlantis, something like that. And we restarted in 2000. The only thing that was constant, sadly, was the use of percentages. That was the only thing. The rest of the knowledge, I don't say that no one had it, but it was not large use. We're still working on this. As soon as we find more information and so on, because it's more like a project made from passion than, I told you, like a grant or a funded project for other research purpose. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alex, and thank you for a really precise timing. I was a bit afraid of in 1929. So.
I compressed